If you've decided that homeschooling might be right for your family, or you're seriously considering it, one of the first things you probably want to know is, what does homeschooling in Georgia actually require? What's legal? What's necessary? Maybe what can I stop worrying about now? Good news is that Georgia is a more homeschool friendly state than others in our country. The requirements are pretty straightforward, and once you understand them, a lot of the overwhelm goes away. Hi, I'm Mary Ellen Yates, and this is Growing Together, Neurodiversity at Home. I provide practical support for families that are raising neurodivergent kids, and I'm someone that's living it too. This video is a practical follow-up from my last video where I talked about why I started homeschooling in the first place. So if you haven't watched that one yet, I'll link that one in the description below. It gives you the context behind the logistics. Today we're covering what you actually need to homeschool legally in Georgia. The declaration of intent, what counts as instructional time, what records you need to keep, and a few things I wish someone else would have mentioned before I got started. I want to be clear up front, I'm not a lawyer, and laws can change. So I'll always link the Georgia Department of Education and Georgia Home Education Association in the description so that you can verify current requirement for yourself. In Georgia, the ages where kids are required to go to school are from 6 to 16. So if your child is in that range, they need to be in some form of legal education. Public school, private school, hybrids, online, or homeschooling, which Georgia calls a home study program. The teaching parent or guardian must have a high school diploma or a GED. You can also hire a tutor to help, but that tutor also needs to meet that requirement. And then you're going to want a declaration of intent. Most people will shorten it and just say DOI, and this is probably your most important document for homeschooling in Georgia because this is what makes your home study legal. Within 30 days of homeschooling in Georgia and every year thereafter before September 1st, you must submit a declaration of intent to the Georgia Department of Education. It's super simple, takes maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and you can do it online. I'll link in the description below. Your declaration asks simple questions like the name and ages of the students, if they have any learning struggles, and your address, which is the location of the home study, your county, and the 12-month period that you consider your homeschool year. So for me, I put August 1st to July 31st is my homeschool year. And then you sign it. One important thing to note, once you submit it online, your form will appear with a unique 36-character code in the parent signature line. Do not leave that page until you have saved it. And that is your official record. So if you want to print it, save it, most of the time you just file it away, but there could be some instances where you might need to supply it. A lot of times if you're exiting from a public school, they'll ask for that. I've seen that you might need it for your driver's permit later down the roads. I have to submit their declaration of intent for homeschooling every year to the clinic that provides therapies. Medicaid requires it for authorization to continue services. Now, there is a debate floating around about whether it is necessary for you to supply the DOI to the school when you withdraw the kid. The Department of Education is supposed to supply it to the school, but as you may know, a lot of systems, they can be slow, they're often understaffed, and their systems are often not efficient. So if the local school does not receive it within 45 days, they're supposed to refer the matter to the Division of Family and Children Services. So the Georgia Home Education Association, or GHEA, recommends just providing a copy of your DOI directly to the school so they have that information that they need just to keep everything clean and avoid any issues. But other people in the community, they're right. Technically, you're not the one that's responsible for it, but it might make your transition easier. So, what do you have to teach? Georgia requires that you provide reading instruction, language arts, math, science, and social studies. So, those 5 core subjects. And then beyond that, it's your decision. So we have significant freedom here in Georgia. And there are no restrictions on what curriculum you use or what format you use. So this is actually really good news for neurodivergent families because they can tailor their curriculums and the media that they use to support what works best for their children. You can go more hands-on, you can do Charlotte Mason, you can do unschooling, more interest-led, or any combination of that. So the state doesn't care how you get there. They just want to make sure you are covering those 5 areas. So how much instructional time do you need to provide? Georgia requires instruction to be at least 4.5 hours and 180 days a year. I guess those numbers could scare people either way. They could feel like that might be too much to get in, but also a lot of people feel like homeschooling may not be as vigorous because it's only 4.5 hours, where when their kids are going to public school, they're there for way longer. Public schools are spending a significant portion of their day on classroom management, transitions, lining up, and waiting, and moving 25 plus kids from one thing to the next. You won't have that. When you're working one-on-one with your own kids, you can move faster, go deeper, and wrap up in way less time without shortchanging anyone. And what counts towards that 4.5 hours is probably broader than most people think. Reading together, hands-on projects, educational outings, therapies that include educational components, life skills, documentaries with discussions afterward. A lot of that counts towards that 4.5 hours, and it's probably stuff that you already do with your kids anyway. For neurodivergent kids especially, a lot of the most meaningful learning doesn't look like traditional school. And in Georgia and most states, that's okay. And then practically speaking, tracking does not need to be complicated. It's looked different for us over the years as I've tried to figure out the best way to organize ourselves. But the last couple of years, I've used a simple day planner, and on the month view, I just circle the days that we did school. And that's my attendance record. Simple, low maintenance, and done. So let me talk a little more about the record keeping piece of homeschooling. In some states, there's quite a bit of record keeping that's involved, but Georgia is pretty minimal, so that's nice. You are required to maintain attendance records and write an annual progress report at the end of each school year, covering your child's progress in the 5 subject areas. But the only thing that you actually submit is your DOI. The progress report and the attendance records stay in your own files. So here's what record keeping actually looks like in our house. I already mentioned how we keep attendance. And then I also use that planner backwards, where I don't write checklists of the things I want to get done. I actually write in key things when we have completed them. So when we finish a curriculum or we finish a book, I write those things down, or we go on a field trip. And so that's my way of just quickly jotting down what we've done. So then I have that to refer back to for when I'm doing my progress report. And then for me in the progress report, I also add in kind of an IEP style information piece, because if they were in the school, they would be needing an IEP that would show what I'm actually doing and how I'm accommodating them. So I also add that in there as well. And then Georgia also requires standardized testing every 3 years. Many people do it on the grades of 3rd, 6th, 9, and 12. So we've been here for 2 years, so next year we'll start that. And these standardized tests do not need to be complicated. You can administer them at home, or you can find a proctor and have them do it. It's whatever your family decides. My practical advice is just keep a simple folder or digital file for each year. I have a lot of my stuff on Google Drive. Keep your planner with the circled days, or however you want to do attendance. You can keep some work samples if you'd like, but it's not a requirement. We mostly keep journals, like our writing journals and our history journals, because those are fun keepsakes, but also it shows the progression through the years as well. And then you'll need to do your annual summary, keep that DOI, and keep those test results when you do them. You just need a system that you'll actually use to keep you organized and to just get started. And then there's community and co-ops. One thing I wanted to mention, because it made a big difference for us early on, is you don't have to do this alone. Georgia has a pretty significant homeschooling community. There are co-ops all over the state where families can share teaching responsibilities, they can coordinate play dates and field trips and all different types of stuff depending on what families are looking for. And it gives some built-in structure and some networking And that's for the kids, but also for the adults. You can often easily find these just on Facebook, searching the city that you're closest to and homeschool, or you can check out the GHEA website and look at what they have listed there. When we first homeschooled, this was very helpful for us. My kids felt like they weren't missing anything because they were developing friendships. And I felt like I had extra support for the beginning when I was still trying to figure things out. We're not currently using any because our therapy appointments are so extensive, I just can't have another appointment. And I've been doing it long enough that I don't feel like I need the same support that I did back then. But if you're just starting out, I would highly recommend at least looking into it and seeing what's out there. It's definitely more manageable than it seems at first. Georgia gives families a lot of freedom, and for neurodivergent kids, that flexibility is very helpful. Coming up in this series, we're going to talk about what homeschooling actually looks like day to day with neurodivergent kids, how to think about curriculum without going down a rabbit hole, or quite a few, and what it's like to teach a child that learns differently. So if you haven't subscribed yet, now might be a good time. There's a lot more coming. And I'm Mary Ellen Yates, and this is Growing Together, Neurodiversity at Home. I'll see you in the next one.